Hello everyone. Today we are again here for another topic in human computer interface, that is device based control. As we have earlier discussed that human computer interface is generally dealing with the computer interface containing the development of interfaces through which the human being interact with the computer system. So device based control is one of the key component, because we are interacting with the system through the means of device only. These devices are the input devices that we come across whenever we are interacting with the human computer. Now this input devices are of various types, and each are having their own advantages and disadvantages. So let's learn in this video that what are the different input devices and their controls, and why they are made in such a way so as to ease the users. So, and in what perspective they are different from one another. So let's see. This device based control, often called input devices, are the mechanism through which people communicate their desires to the system. So there are various capabilities and the characteristics of the device based control, just like trackball, joystick, graphic tablet, light pen, touch screen, voice, mouse, keyboard. All through all these devices the user interact with the system. So let's learn each devices. As the figure is indicating on the screen, the trackball. So we know that the trackball is a ball that rotates freely in all the direction, but in its own socket only. So it rotates, and through rotating it interacts with the environment, it interacts with the screen. So it is acting as an interface, input device. So the main advantage is having the direct relationship between hand and the pointer movement in terms of direction and speed. As you touch, you move and you interact with the screen. So it does not obscure the vision of the screen as well. So it does not require additional desk space. So whatever the space is there, it is on the keyboard, it is mounted over there, and there only it can be easily moved. So there are certain disadvantages, just like the movement is indirect, in plane, different from the screen. So there can be sometimes mismatch between the eye movement and the trackball moving device. It requires hand to be removed from the keyboard keys, because whenever our hands is on the keyboard, so we need to remove the hands from the keys, and then we need to touch the trackball. So it requires some amount of time. So this is one of the disadvantage. May be difficult to control sometimes. It requires different hand movements. So all these are the disadvantages of the trackball. So further we see that another one is the joystick. As the figure is indicating, it is a stick. It has a direct relationship between hand and pointer movement in terms of direction and speed, and again not obscure the vision of the screen, and does not require additional space as the earlier one. So the movement is indirect in plane from the screen, requires hand to be removed again, and it requires different hand movements. It may be slow sometimes, this joystick, and it is inaccurate sometimes. So this is another input device that we come across when we are dealing with any of the computer system. So next one is the graphic tablet. As the figure is indicating, it is a tablet. You must have seen this in your day-to-day life, maybe. So it is a touch tablet. So the pressure, heat, light, or light blockage sensitive horizon surfaces that lie on the desktop or the keyboard. So it basically act on that, and it may be operated with the fingers. It may be operated with the light pen, or any pencil you can use, or any other object you can use to point out the required picture or required object on the screen. So the main advantage is, again, it does not obscure the screen, and more comfortable horizon operating plane is there. It has a direct relationship between the hand and the pointer. So as you are moving your hand, so you can see on the screen that the screen is also pointer is also moving in the same way as your hand is moving. So the direction and speed is well good enough when we go with this touch tablet. And disadvantages is again we require the movement is indirect in the plane, different from the screen, requires hand to be removed from the keyboard, finger may be too large sometimes, flow accuracy for the small object is an issue, because whenever you try to touch the small object with the finger, if the finger is too broad enough, you cannot able to point out the exact object that you want. The touch screen, many of us are using it day to day. The touch screens, we all know it is having the direct relationship between hand and pointer. No extra space is required because we can directly touch on the screen. Movement is direct in the same plane as the screen. And one of the disadvantage is that the finger may obscure the part of screen as you are touching your finger on the interaction device. So if maybe their finger is broad enough, the small objects, instead of touching the small object, the object that you want, you are you may touch another object adjacent to it. It happens many times. So this is one of the disadvantage. The finger may be too large for accuracy, requires moving the hand far from the keyboard to use. It may damage the screen as well. So these are the disadvantages of the touch screen. Similarly, light pen. So the light pen, as the name indicates, it is having a pen. Through the use of pen, we are interacting with the device. It is a spatial surface on the screen sensitive to a touch of spatial pen is there called stylus. So through this pen we can interact with any object. So the advantage are the same as we have seen in the previous one. It requires minimal additional desk space, stands up well in high use environment, more accurate than finger touching. So this are the advantages as we compare it with the screen. Because it is having a sharp pointed edge, so it can be easily pointer can works more better, more efficient in comparison to another previous one. So the problem is that hand may obscure the part of screen, requires picking it to use, requires moving the hand far from the keyboard to use, very fatigued to use for extended period of time. So these are some of the disadvantages that we are having with the light pen. Voice, another interactive medium, voice. Through the voice we are interacting with the system. As we have seen, there are many mobile phones are coming in the market. They recognize the speech and then they interact. We used to say like Alexa, only the software is there, we are saying something and it is working on it. So the voice recognition system, automatic speech recognition is done by the computer only for the interaction with the devices. So the advantage is simple, direct, it can be used by the uneducated, those who doesn't know, they just can speak and then get their work done. Useful for people who cannot use the keyboard when the system hands are, when the user hands are occupied, still we can use, we are working, we are preparing some dish in the kitchen and then only we have to say and we have to get our work done. So this is one of the very useful interactive medium through the voice. But again, the voice recognition system softwares are not as efficient. There are many softwares available which are doing good considerably, but they are not good in all perspectives. Maybe the language, or maybe the difficult words, or maybe the vocabulary, the issues are there. So high error rates due to difficulties in recognizing the boundaries between the spoken words, blurring word boundaries due to normal speech patterns, voice fluctuations may be the problem in this case, slower throughput than with the typing, difficult to use in noisy environment when we are having the we are standing in front in such an environment where there is a lot of noise is there, then it is difficult to use this voice recognition in that case. So impractical to use in quite an environment many times. So another medium is the mouse. Mouse is, we all are using the mouse, and we know it is a very good interactive medium, having the direct relationship between hand and the pointer. It permits a comfortable hand resting position. We all love to, generally we all love to interact with the mouse. So selection mechanism are included on the mouse. It does not obscure the vision. So these are all the advantages that we come across with the mouse. But again, with the advantages, we are having certain disadvantages also. So let's see. So the movement is indirect in a plane, different from screen many times, requires hand to be removed again from the keyboard, because when there are such a kind of people that they love typing very much, and they know the shortcut keys and they are getting their work done. So the mouse, for them, mouse is a slower medium and keyboard is much faster. So they love to do with the keyboard only instead of using the mouse. So it requires additional space. We all know this. The mouse takes another additional space so that we can scroll them, we can use it. So may require long movement distances, require a degree of eye-hand coordination. Another interactive medium, as I have discussed, the keyboard. We are familiar with this. It is accurate, does not take additional space because keyboard is required for the input device only. Obviously, we need a keyboard, very useful for entering the text, alphanumeric characters, inserting the text. Keyed shortcut accelerators are there, shortcut keys are there, mnemonics are there, through which we can make our work more easier, more quicker. So advantages for slow for non-touch typist. So slower than other device in the pointing, requires discrete actions to operate, no direct relationship between finger and hand movement. So as we can see, the new users generally they prefer mouse, touch screen, touching through the mouse or the touch screens instead of doing with the keyboard. So but the experienced user, they prefer the keyboard in comparison to the touch screen and this mouse. So the some of the keyboard guidelines are there, as the keyboards are meant for the input device. So there are some accelerators which are provided to speed up the process. So what we do in the keyboard accelerators is we assign single keys for frequently performed small scale task. So whenever any task is there which need to be performed very speedily, very frequently, though we assign some single keys for them. Just like maybe save. So in many of the softwares, if you we work on the C or any other, F2 is one of the key. So we just press F2, we get the work done. So this is one of the shortcut. So use standard platform accelerators because the standard platform accelerators should be used so that it cannot be learned by the user every time, because for different application, if we are having different standards, different keys, so it is very difficult for the user to learn. So that is why we go for the standardization. So assign shift key combinations for actions, provide control key combinations for infrequent actions, because shift and key, they are adjacent to each other, but control and key is many times different, requires another hand. So all these conventions are being followed whenever we go for the keyboard. Keyboard equivalent, standard platform equivalents are provided. Use the first letter of the item description. We can do window navigation through the use of keyboard keys. So all these shortcuts and the things we can perform through the keyboard. And some of the guidelines are: provide keyboard for tasks involving heavy text entry, movement through structured arrays, provide an alternate pointing device for graphical and drawing tasks. No, we don't go for the keyboard for graphics. Actually, mainly it is used for entering text alphanumeric. So for graphical and drawing tasks, we are having another mouse, joystick, trackball, and every tablet. All these are available to us. So for graphics, we go for this. So it provides touch screens under the following conditions. Opportunity for training is minimal. So when to use the touch screen, the targets are large, discrete, and spread out. Frequency of use is slow. So in those cases, minimize the eye and hand movement between the devices. We go for the touch screens. So the pointer should be visible at all the times. We always want whatever the pointer is there on the screen, it should be visible, contrast well to the background. It should not happen that my mouse pointer is having the same color as the background and I am not able to recognize where it is. So all these are the guidelines. Shape of the pointer matters sometimes. It should not be too broad in front. So whenever we need to point any of the object, it should be in a pointed, it should be displayed as a pointed device from front. So use only as many shapes as necessary to inform the user. Animation should not distract the user. If we are using the animation, there are many animated pointers available, but it should not distract the user if we can use that. So it should be next is the interaction device. We know keyboards, different kinds of keyboards are available in the market. Just like QWERTY keyboard, layout is there, the work layout is there, ABCD style keyboards are there. So we have seen, even we have seen this kind of keyboards on the mobile phones as well. If you see there in a few years back, the mobile was there, BlueBerry. So it's having the QWERTY keyboard, all the keys are available, and in some of the cases the keys are like small and capital letters, we need to press the shift. So all these different kinds of keyboards are available according to the need and according to the user. And we are having again some characteristics for the keys inside the keyboard. So half-inch square keys. So all these things are designed actually. They are some brainstorming has been done earlier, and thereafter all these things has been designed. It doesn't come in one day only. So things are there when it started, and then we achieved this kind of keyboards as we are seeing it today. So all these things creates a history actually. So how many space should be there between the two keys so that user can press easily? What are the key combinations that we need to work on? Displacement, how much displacement is there? What are the frequent keys that we need to keep? And certain keys should be larger. Why? There are some brainstorming for that, like enter key, space key, we go for the large block. So all these things require some brainstormings, and things are come that we see in the form of research only. So all this research has been done, and thereafter we get the things that we are having today. So the key labels, that should be large, meaningful, permanent. So all these guidelines and characteristics are there when we go for keys. And some special keys are there, like function keys. So user must either remember each key function, identify them from the screen display, or use a template over the keys in order to identify them properly. So they can reduce the number of keystrokes and errors. So meaning of each key can arrange with some application. Placement on keyboard can affect efficient use. So light next to the key used to indicate availability of the function or on or off status. Typically simply labeled F1, F2, etc. Though some of may also used to have meaningful labels, just like cut, copy instead of Control X and Control V. So we can label it like this also. So these are the function keys that are used. Cursor movement keys, up, down, left, right. We can see On the keyboard there are some arrow keys, left to move up, to move down, left and right. They are placed on the keyboard on the right hand side, and some keyboards also provide diagonals as well. So best layout is natural positions. So inverted T positions allow user to place their middle three fingers in a way that reduce hand and finger movement. So all these things, where to place these arrow keys, so that and the user can easily place their fingers, and they can interact with the keys and get its work done easily. So cross arrangement better for no voice than linear or box. So as we can see, they are in most of the keyboards they are placed in a cross fashion, the left, right, up, down, and many of the computer games also we have seen it is like in a cross fashion, up, down, left, right. So there are the meaning, as it doesn't happen that we place it as we want, but it doesn't go like that. It is a research is there that which is better for the user, placement of fingers, ease. So all these things has been considered when we go for placement of keys. So the pointing device can able to select. There are 6 main functions. The interaction task that is being provided by the pointing device, those all we have discussed. Select, that is user chooses from the certain set of items. Position, user chooses a point in the entire screen, in the 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension space. It chooses one of the position. It may rotate, it may orient, it may choose a direction in 2D direction, 3D direction. Similarly, a path, a user rapidly performs a series of positions or orient operations. This is called a path. Quantify, a user specifies a numeric value to the things. So usually a 1 dimension selection of integer or real value to a set of parameters such as page number in a document, velocity of a ship, or amplitude of a sound. So all these things are quantified. A numeric is given for that certain task. Similarly, text, the user enters, moves and edits text in a 2-dimensional space. So the pointing device indicates a location of insertion, deletion or change. All these things is being done by the pointing devices. So we are having some of the pointing devices. As we have seen, they are categorized as direct control and indirect control. In direct control, just like a light pen, we are interacting with the system directly. Our fingers and the screen are directly interacting with each other without any medium. So light pen, touch screens, and this tablet, PC, mobile phones, these are all the direct control pointing device. And when we talk of indirect, so we have seen earlier, just like mouse, trackball, joystick, tablet, touchpad, all these are the indirect pointing devices, because we need a medium. For the mouse, we need to hold the mouse and we move the mouse, and then only we can able to interact with the devices, with the screen. But in this case, in direct control, there is no medium. We can directly touch with our finger, or we can directly touch the screen and interact with the screen. So this is the categorization of pointing devices, that is direct control and indirect control pointing devices. So some of the human factors, variables are involved when we go for indirect pointing devices, just like speed of motion, accuracy, error rates, learning time, user satisfaction. All these variables are there, and thereafter cost, durability, space requirement, weight, all these factors are there when we consider, when we opt for indirect pointing devices. We need to consider all these variables, and then only we can choose whether to go for direct and indirect pointing devices. So the comparison is that the direct pointing devices are faster but less accurate. Graphic tablets are appealing when user can remain with device for long periods without switching to keyboard. Mouse is faster than isometric joystick. For tasks that mix typing and pointing, cursor keys are faster and are preferred by user to a mouse. Muscular strain is low for cursor keys. So all these comparisons are there when we opt for direct or indirect devices. And of course, some of the novel devices, apart from these we are seeing in our history, some of the novel devices are there in the picture that uses AI, artificial intelligence, just like eye tracking. So through the eyes only we are tracking, the cursor is moving with the help of eyes. So we need a device on our surface. A device is there in front of eyes. We used to move our eye trackball, and accordingly in the same way through the distance and displacement variables, the screen pointing device moves and selects the things. So this is one of the novel device we are having. Similarly, data gloves, as we can see this data gloves in the picture over here. Through these gloves we can able to touch any of the object, even if it is not existing. So we can feel with the help of this data glove. So we can feel the pressure, we can feel the weight, that is, it is in our hand, but actually it is not. So these are the data gloves. Similarly, haptic feedback is there. This screen is it is showing that we can do the haptic feedback through the use of our palms. So bimanual input is there, ubiquitous computing is there. So all these novel devices are there in the market. Research is being going on, they are existing, but obviously having some constraints right now. But again, it is a matter of research and things are improving day by day. And speech and auditory interfaces are another medium to interact with the screens. So speech recognition still does not match the fantasy of science fiction. Demand of user working memory, background noise is problematic, as we discussed. Variations in user speech performance impact effectiveness. So all these the speech recognition is obviously is useful and widely accepted, but having certain problems. So discrete word recognition is again a constraint, a problem. It is not as efficient. So it recognizes individual words spoken by a specific person, can work with 90 to 98% reliability for 20 to 200 word vocabularies. Okay, so this much it can do, but obviously having some constraints, and apart from this, beyond this, there is a problem. Also useful in applications with at least one of the following conditions: speaker hands are occupied, mobility is required, speaker eyes are occupied. When all these things are there, we go for speech, we opt speech in that case. So voice controlled editor versus keyboard editor. So in that case, when we compare this voice control and keyboard, so lower task completion rate is there with the speech, lower error rate, can use disrupt problem solving. So continuous speech recognition is not generally available. As we can see, there is a problem with the words. So the problems are there with the vocabulary, not much words can be used in one go. So there are some problems with the speech. So speech store and forward. So voice mail users can be used there. As we can see, we can store the voice when we can forward the voice in the systems. So voicemail users can receive the message, reply the messages, reply to the caller, forward message to other. System are low cost and reliable. Then displays. So the displays are small and large. The display has become the primary source of feedback to the user. We can see the displays screens. The display are many important features include physical dimensions, resolutions, power consumption, refresh rates. So displays are have their own characteristics. So usage characteristics distinguish the displays, just like portability, privacy, silency, all these things matters. These characteristics matters when we opt for any display, and we know that display are of various kinds, just like CRT screens. We used to see monochrome displays earlier. RGB shadow mask displays we use. Similarly, we use LCD screens. We used to use LCD screens on our home TV. Plasma panel displays, LED displays, electronic ink, braille displays, all these things display kind of displays are available in the market and through the since decades. These displays are obviously large and small, both are available, and the larger displays are just like information wall, interactive wall displays, multiple desktop displays. So similarly, heads up and helmet mounted displays are also there for the 3D images and the things that require AI hand gloves. For them, displays are some different as compared to we see on the using the computers. So mobile device display, we all uses the mobile and having the display. So we can see animation, image, videos can be seen on the screen through the, this is a display, digital video, DVD, scanning of images, it all comes under display. Similarly, when we go for the devices, then the printer is again one of the important device. So the speed, print quality, cost, compactness, reliability, characteristic, set, all these characteristics are there into consideration when we go for the printers. And we are having multiple kinds of printers, just like dot matrix printer, inkjet printer, laser printer, color printer, photographic printer. All these printers are having their own advantages and disadvantages and the cost. So through all this lecture, we discussed about the ample amount of different kinds of devices that we use for interacting with the system, and those devices, their characteristics, their advantages, their disadvantages. So it helps a user, or it helps the audiences to select the kind of device that we can use for the novice user and the experienced user. So thank you for the day. Thank you.